If you've followed us for a while, you'll be well and truly familiar with our next gen Ranger Raptor. However, if this is your first time tuning in, I apologise to your partners, children and dogs for me. You've got a lot of catching up to do. But for now, I'm going to do my best job at trying to compress the last 12 months into the next 60 minutes or so that you can make it back to the table in time for dinner. So around 2 years ago, we started work on developing a range of products for the next generation of the Ford Ranger platform. So obviously we started off with the 4 and 6 cylinder variations and then progressed into the 3 litre twin turbo V6 next gen Ranger Raptor that you see behind me here. This was around the same time that we started dabbling in creating better content. With the help of some lifelong friends Zach and Paul, we delved into the world of YouTube, and after a discussion about analytics and a phone call to the accountant, I was driving back to work in a brand new second-hand Ranger Raptor. Now that we had a car that didn't need to be returned to a customer by 5 PM, it was time to clear some room on the hoist and start pulling things apart. But why? New product development, of course. Sometimes things went back together as they were. Sometimes there was tape involved, and sometimes there was some expensive trips to Motorama. But the one thing that we knew that we couldn't put back together without making some drastic changes to was the exhaust, and more specifically, the mid-pipe. V8 Commodore, V8 Falcon, Mangmobile. If you can think of a horrible sounding exhaust comparison that you can make to the next gen Ranger Raptor, you can be rest assured that we've heard it. But why? Why do they sound so bad? We're not exactly sure who's responsible for it, but what we do know is that having a muffler that largely resembles a tin can was never going to result in a good sounding exhaust note. Now, if you're interested in taking a more in-depth look at what goes on inside this muffler, I'd encourage you to check out episode 6 and 7 in our Next Gen Ranger Raptor build series, which I'm going to get Paul to throw some in-video links in right here. But in a nutshell, the exhaust gas enters the muffler, but how long it's in there for and how many chambers it bounces through depends on the valves, which, depending on how much throttle percentage you're applying and what exhaust mode you've selected on the steering wheel, will depend on how it sounds. Now that sentence was hard enough to say. Imagine trying to build an exhaust system that sounds good with all of that going on, but you know we like a challenge. So the next step was to figure out how to make it sound better. It's a twin turbo V6, so on paper, it has to sound good. So what else has the same twin turbo V6 engine combo? The Nissan R35 GTR. And we know that car sounds good. So how did they make that happen? It consists of a twin system into a single section under the middle of the car, back to a twin system at the rear of the car. And what else is really important in establishing a good exhaust note? Well, making sure the exhaust gas from both banks is joined or equalised at some point in the exhaust. So now we had some ideas about what to do, and after a lengthy chat with our good mate Russ, you may have heard of him, it was time to start cutting and fabbing. I was pretty confident that adopting what Nissan had done with the R35 GTR was going to be an easy win. We knew we were short on capacity, but on paper it had promise. The first step was to make 2 twin 2.5 inch into single 4-inch merge collectors, one for either end of where we had cut the factory exhaust up. From there, we just had to join the dots with some 4-inch tube and a MagnaFlow muffler.
Here we go.
Out the back. I love this car. Were we happy with how it sounded? Well, to be honest, we didn't really know. It had been that long since the Raptor had had a complete exhaust on it, and it had been driven with no exhaust, some exhaust, half an exhaust. We kind of had forgotten how it sounded. Yeah, we were happy, but did we think we could make it sound better? There was only one way to find out. So the next step was to try the twin in, twin out Magnaflow muffler with an X-pipe. And this was far more what we were after. What we ended up with was something that was very reminiscent of the Nissan 350Z. Sharp, crisp, and more importantly, far, far easier to fabricate at a large scale. One thing we didn't take into account though was the turbos being bolted straight to the side of the head of the Raptor donk and how we were going to get around that, if that was even an option. So after a bit of a chat with the boys, we think we had come to a conclusion that that was a system that we were going to offer to market. The only thing left to do from there was figure out how we were going to remanufacture the valves. Enter Beaudesert Exhaust. Approaching the guys from Beaudesert Exhaust for help was an absolute no-brainer for us. With over 40 years of experience in the performance exhaust manufacturing space and having already had a pre-existing relationship with Jamie from our background in motorsports, it was an easy win. And not to mention, Beaudesert already took care of the mandrel bending on one of our best-selling products, the Next Gen Ranger Raptor 4-inch exhaust conversion. Available from our website, fabulousfab.com.au. Cool, eh? It's cool to see plastic doing that.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we didn't take into account was the bypass pipe. So as you can see, the factory exhaust runs a bypass or always open pipe. When the valves are closed, the exhaust gas is forced through a different combination of chambers and then out of the always open pipe, allowing flow into the rest of the exhaust system. Our new design did not include one as yet. But why? Well, because after some early testing, we decided that checking the valves out or removing a small section of material would allow enough exhaust gas through to not cause any back pressure issues. Because we knew from previous testing that as throttle percentage and flow increased, that the valves would open to suit. So what we found specifically under highway driving conditions is that there was a delay in the valves opening under acceleration. So let's say for argument's sake, you would take off and you would accelerate to go around someone on the highway, you could quite clearly hear a build-up of, it almost sounded like a vacuum in reverse in the exhaust system, which we figured was a build-up in back pressure, which would ultimately lead to bent valves in the exhaust and broken turbos, so that we knew from that we had to come up with another solution. And what was that solution? Well, it was a small mandrel bent pipe running from pre-muffler to post-valve. Another job for Beaudesert Exhaust to help us with. No biggie though. Thankfully, the muffler design we had chosen for our mid-pipe meant that fabbing bypass pipes to alleviate the back pressure problem that we were seeing would be easy enough to do. The need for this bypass pipe was really hammered home after a planned content trip to Moreton Island. After some quote-unquote product testing sessions, we had managed to melt the stepper motor on one valve. This led to a reduction in power. It also saw all of the exhaust gas being expelled out one side, completely burning the powder coat off of the driver's side exhaust tip. So while I was out breaking valves, Jamie, aka the mad scientist, was getting busy working away in the background, prototyping, 3D printing, and testing the remanufactured valves. So by this point, we had a muffler design sorted, a solution for the bypass pipe, and the valves were well underway. We were weeks away from being able to bang these things in boxes and start shipping them out. Or so we thought. Remember that time Beaudesert stood over me from my car?
That actually did
They
not
fully
happen.
did.
That
No,
did happen, yeah.
They turned up, bro. Sit downstairs. I've got something to talk to you about. We're taking your
That's
car.
not an accurate
No, they did.
recall of that situation at
I
all.
think
Do
it
you,
happened like
And
do you
Adam-
want to tell them how?
And because Adam's this much taller than me, he's like, I'm taking your car, bro.
Do you want to run through exactly what the situation is?
Yeah, I think
Well, that's my memory of it. What do you remember? Well, I guess it's up to me then to tell you what happened. If I remember correctly, what happened was basically the guys approached us and were like, look, we want to develop an exhaust for the Raptor as well. We don't really want to have to try and compete with your marketing. there's probably no point both of us offering a system for the Raptor, so let's just team up and build one together. So the idea behind it was that the guys from Beaudesert were going to white label us a product, so they would take care of the bending, initial assembly, the remanufacturing of the valves, the manufacturing of the mufflers, then the final weld out and finish off would be performed in-house at Fabulous Fab. Now, one thing that is pretty important to us is, I suppose, our brand, and you know, as you're probably aware, a lot of our weld processes and procedures are pivotal to that brand, so we wanted to make sure we kept that in-house. Basically, we sort of sat back and re-evaluated our goals for the exhaust. We figured, look, you know, if someone with far more knowledge and experience in, you know, tone and cancelling out resonance and building mufflers was happy to work with us, then we'd probably be doing Raptor owners a disservice worldwide if we didn't take them up on their offer. So I think what we've got now is something that we're both pretty confident to say is the best exhaust available in the world for the next gen Ranger Raptor. And with that, it was time to say goodbye to the Raptor for a couple of months, but we knew it would be for the best. To absolutely no one's surprise, Jamie wasted no time getting the car ripped apart to start E equals MC squaring, otherwise known as using scientific formulas to change the exhaust note from meh to hell yeah. A handful of different size, shape and length combinations of mufflers were trialled, and once coupled up with some V8 supercar technology pre-muffler, we had perfected the mid-pipe. There were still a couple of teething problems with the valves, but there were some solutions in place to overcome them. Now, if you know me, you'll know I like making things way harder for myself than they should be. So while all of this was going on, in the background, we were also working on another project, fabulousfab.co.nz. We were approached by Ruben from Judge & Company, who thought it would be a great idea to see Fabulous Fab snorkels on NZ shores. So after a conversation, we started work on building a pallet of stock, which is now available for purchase and installation in New Zealand through JNC. But what good is stock on hand if no one knows about it, right? So clearly we needed some meta content, and as fate would have it, Ruben was in Australia for a drift event at the same time the mid-pipe was ready for some real-world testing. So we picked up the Raptor from Beaudesert Exhaust and pointed it straight at Bribie Island.
You guys actually wear those things?
Yeah, fucking oath we do. Now, after getting the chance to do some miles in the car, we absolutely loved what we heard. It was smooth, it was distinguished, it was refined, it was everything that a Raptor is not. But our only feedback for Jamie was that it needed more scumbag in Baja mode. Easy, he says. Wash the sand out of the car and drop it back down to me. And then disaster struck.
Several months later.
Fast forward a couple of months and we were back to having a fully functional, stock ECU equipped, working, driving Raptor. Stock ECU? Yeah, you heard correctly. But why Fabby? The answer? More scumbag, of course. I mean, let's face it, guys. What's the point of owning a Raptor if you're not going to drive it like a Raptor every now and again? And I mean, after some reflection, we decided if we've come this far, then we might as well just keep going. So let me introduce to you the scumbag section. Now, I might be biased, but this is my favourite section of the exhaust. More noise, more power, both of these equal more smiles. So how did we achieve that? Well, it's 3-inch from turbo to mid-pipe. It has race flex joints, it's mandrel bent, it's 3D modelled, it's purge welded. Oh, and the cats? Well, of course they're the best ones you can get. So in summary, we didn't just stop at the mid-pipe, we have developed a full turbo to tips exhaust system for the next gen Ranger Raptor. Which brings us to here, the finished product. Almost 12 months to the day since our last episode. What that means is we've been through 12 months of testing, braking, revising, remanufacturing, meetings and more testing, but we've finally finished it. So I guess we should probably show you the completed system. So what do you think? Because we are pretty bloody happy with it. Let's dive in and take a closer look at our completed next gen Ranger Raptor exhaust system. So starting at the back of the system, we have what you see in front of me. Now this is our 4-inch resonator delete for the next gen Ranger Raptor. Now this is one of our most popular Raptor products that we sell, and it's not hard to see why. We don't know what Ford were thinking, but the stock tips are absolutely atrocious. So what these do is replace the stock tip. It's a 4-inch mandrel bent pipe. It's powder coated black. It's super durable, and more importantly, it makes the stock system sound even better. So if you want to do just the stock tip, you certainly can. But why not pair that up with the mid-pipe system? So this effectively goes from the front of the engine pipe all the way through to the back, where the pipes come up and over the diff. Now you might notice there's a really big gap in the system here and be going, what about that part of the exhaust? Well, there is no need to replace it. Basically, from here to here is the factory part. We could remake it, but you would just be spending money for the sake of spending it, so there was absolutely no point doing it. That factory part of the system is more than fine. So what is important to note, and what you might be wondering, is, do I need to buy this? Do I need to buy this? Do I need to buy all of it together? No, you absolutely don't. It is backwards and forwards compatible. So if you want to start with just the tips, or you already have the tips and you want to now buy this, you can do that. If you want to buy the front part of the exhaust because you're chasing power gains right now and you're not too worried about how it sounds, you can do that too. But either way, one thing that is important is to know that this is completely modular, it is backwards and forwards compatible, and you can pick and choose and buy as you like. So yes, 12 months ago, all we were building was this, but then we quickly realized what we actually needed to deliver you guys was the absolute best possible Ford Ranger Raptor system available on the planet. And who better to talk you through that than the guys that helped us develop it, Jamie from Beaudesert Exhaust. So let's get him in and let's run through all of the specific details.
Right, just give us out a test for us.
1, 2. My name's Jamie and I'm the engineer at Beaudesert Exhaust. Family-owned business, been going for 42 years, specialising in the exhaust sector and focusing on audio quality. We've been watching the videos and we're going to help you.
So, Jamie, can you tell me why this took a full year? But seriously though, come back. So if you know anything about exhaust, you will have heard the name Beaudesert Exhaust before. You guys have obviously done a really, really good job of building a rock solid reputation.
Thank you.
How do you do that? Where do you start? Run us through the whole procedure. What do you do first?
Sure, everything gets CAD designed, 3D scanned,
yeah,
reverse engineered, and then we work out what works and what doesn't work.
Yep.
From there, take out what's not needed, put in what is,
yep,
and we end up with something like this.
So in terms of the Raptor then, you guys stripped it down?
Yep.
3D scanned what was there, or 3D scanned the car?
Everything. So the car, the exhaust, everything. So from that, we've got locations of every pipe, where it sits, our clearances and our heights. We want to make sure we don't get lower than the factory car, but we also want to get higher than what's there. So
touching on that specific point you just said, one thing you guys might notice is that this exhaust is currently up on a stand. One thing that is important to note is that the mufflers you can see are no lower than this bit. So while they look big because they're standing on their side, they're actually more compact than what the original design is, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think we lifted about 20 mil from factory.
Yeah.
And the section at the back there is probably about an inch taller than factory. So you will have more ground clearance.
Yeah.
Whilst having the twin mufflers. Well, they look tall, but they're not that tall.
To explain this system to the guys and sort of all of our trials and tribulations and why we think it is the best Raptor exhaust on the planet, because it is, do you want to start at the front or do you want to start at the back?
Let's start at the front.
All right, done. So if we are going to start at the front of the exhaust, one thing we are going to talk about is that for the first time in the history of my life as a fabricator selling products for cars, the Ranger Raptor is the same platform worldwide. We've never had that before. Usually someone will send us an email from Europe and they'll be like, hey guys, we've got a Ranger, can I fit your product to my car? The guard shape is the same, but everything in the engine bay is different. But for the first time ever, what we're encountering is that the Ranger Raptor is the same platform worldwide, no matter if you're in Dubai, Mexico, the Netherlands, Antarctica, Australia, wherever, it's the same. So when we were developing this system, one thing that was crucially important was knowing that this product would suit Australian conditions, it would suit European conditions, it would suit American conditions, and that led us to the choice of cats.
Yeah.
So what cats have we gone with?
So we're going with Euro 6 emission catalytic converters.
Yep.
These are the largest body cats that we can fit in. And when I say body, we're talking about diameter. So we're going to put a 5-inch diameter body in there.
Yep.
And we're limited to the gearbox, chassis, firewall position. So we can't go too much bigger than that. But the bigger we put in there, the more flow we're going to have. So the more flow, we can flow more air, we're going to make more power from the front.
Yep. Is there such thing as an easy way to answer what is a Euro 6 catalytic converter?
We could go into much detail, but it's easy enough just to say what we put in the middle here will keep the lights off your dash.
Understood.
If we put the right cat in from the start,
Yeah.
you're not going to have problems down the track.
Yeah.
12 months time when Ford release Euro 6B, if they
Yeah.
push out a software update, you know, your
Yeah.
earlier cat's not going to have the same dramas as you have now.
So am I correct in saying then, and you guys might see that we've got two O2 sensor bungs in the exhaust, right? So this is pre-cat,
Pre-cat.
and post-cat.
Correct.
Now my understanding of this situation is this one reads a certain degree of temperature,
Yes.
and this one reads a certain degree of temperature. And this is responsible for controlling the temperature difference between them.
Correct.
So if this wasn't up to scratch and this temperature difference was too high, then it would throw a light on the dash or a code.
Yeah, what we're looking for is fuel differences from front to back.
Understood.
So we need to get the cat hot enough, is why we got it so far forward.
Yes.
Get the cat hot enough, we're
Yep.
going to burn the NOx
Yep.
and get that three-way cat working
Yep.
so that what comes out the back
Yep.
is Euro 6 emissions compliant.
So these don't necessarily read temperature, they read air fuel ratio.
Air fuel ratio, yep.
So basically what you're saying is the cats that we've got and the cats that we've used will never give you any dramas if Ford releases an emissions update, which we're probably expecting to happen sometime in the future.
Yes.
We've future-proofed ourselves by putting the best possible product in there right now. We've over-engineered it, right?
Yes, of course.
Awesome. So after our over-engineered cats, what are we working back to next?
We've increased the pipe diameter.
Yep.
From the 2.5 at the front, we've upped it to a 3-inch pipe. So we want to get
Gotcha.
the same outlet of the turbo moving as quick as we can.
Yep.
So the outlet size we have at the turbo is the same size as the pipe.
Yep. Okay.
rather than necking
and that's
down-
why you might see a horsepower increase.
Of course, yes.
Understood. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. The flanges that you've got up the front,
Yes.
they're not just any normal 2-bolt flange, are they?
No, they start their life as a 16mm laser cut plate.
Yep.
From there, they're 2 stages of machining to get to a point where essentially on one side it looks like a V-band clamp.
Yep.
And the other side is a conical flange that takes the gasket from the Ford turbo.
And to explain that further, the gasket on the back of the turbo isn't a traditional, you know, in any other normal sort of instance, a turbo gasket will just be a flat gasket. But in the back of the Ranger Raptor turbos, it has a, how would you explain it? Like a ceramic-y kind of dome gasket.
Yeah, like a
in
ball
there.
flange.
That ball flange,
Yeah.
right. So, you know, if there's dump pipes on the market that are just a run-of-the-mill 2-bolt flange, they might not seal as well as what they could. What Jamie has done is ensure that this is going to seal absolutely perfectly. There'll never be any exhaust leaks,
Yeah.
as long as it's installed correctly.
So what we did, we 3D scanned the gasket itself,
Oh, right.
sectioned it, and we took the actual shape from...
Dead set.
Yeah.
That's amazing. No, that's unreal.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So, bigger diameter, hotter gas,
Yeah.
getting out the back quicker, more
Yep.
power. What are these?
They're our race flex bellows.
Why do they look nothing like the factory Ford ones?
These ones are good. They're one direction bellows, blowing through one way.
Yeah.
That way, the hot exhaust gases stay away from the corrugations of the outside of the bellow.
So I've seen this in like drift cars and, you know, performance applications before. Your standard braided bellow,
Yeah.
they can break down over time, right?
Correct.
And especially with beach, sand, mud,
Yes.
this is going to give the customer more longevity.
Yes. There's nothing here to retain salt water,
Yeah.
sand.
Yeah.
Everything that you will splash onto that, you can wash off from the outside. Nothing's going to get stuck on a braided flex joint.
Yep, okay, I
You can
understand.
clean it out.
So basically everything mid-pipe forward is focused on increasing performance,
Correct.
future-proofing the exhaust for emissions updates,
Correct.
and customer longevity in a product that will never fail.
Correct.
Let's move on to the mid-pipe. All right, so moving on to the infamous mid-pipe. This is what started it all, wasn't it?
Yeah, 3 weeks worth of work here.
Yeah.
Not much.
So one thing I noticed straight off the bat is there's something weird going on here that the other one doesn't have.
That's right. So we moved the X-pipe forward.
So this bit used to be here.
Yes.
Tell me why we've changed it.
So we've pulled the X-pipe forward.
Yeah.
We want to get rid of as much of the bad sound prior to the mufflers
Uh-huh.
before running them through. Obviously, we want the cleanest sound as we can outside the muffler. So rather than putting the X-pipe at the back, we're going to blend the left and right banks, and we're going to get the best sound we can before we actually get to the muffler to refine it.
So by putting the X-pipe here instead of here, you're equalising the sound earlier,
Correct.
giving the muffler a better chance of making the car sound good.
Yes.
Right.
The X-pipe actually takes a lot of noise out
How?
by blending left and right banks.
That makes no sense.
So like a muffler, we're colliding sound waves inside the X-pipe.
He's lying. This is all part of it. Keep going.
Yeah, so as well as knocking away sound waves, we're going to be scavenging as well. So as we're blowing down the exhaust,
Yes.
we're going to be sucking out the other one. So it is a turbo. We are going to have equal gases running down both pipes at the same time.
Okay.
It's not going to be like an extractor where you're pumping
Yep.
2 pipes at once, but you do still get the benefit of sucking down both
So-
pipes.
Circling a long way back to episode 1 and 2 of this whole mid-pipe development saga, when we had Russell Engel here, he got talking about X-pipes. And so the scavenging and the velocity you said before, that's to literally suck air out of the engine.
Yeah, correct.
So the bigger diameter dump pipes and the X-pipe, this is all a performance increasing.
Of course, yes.
Right, okay, cool.
So by the time we've got to this point, we're making power, we're probably making more noise with larger dumps.
Yes,
We knock it about in the X-pipe.
yep.
From there, we work into our dual stage muffler.
What do you mean by dual stage? Wait, when you say dual stage, is it like this? Because I feel like this one's a 3-stage muffler, right?
It is, but
1, 2, 3.
as a whole, it's a reflective muffler. It's a one stage muffler. Open or close, it's doing one job of reflecting sound waves.
And so what we found out in episode 1 or 2, and we're going to keep referencing that, just pause now, go watch it, come back. When we filled this full of smoke, the gas comes in, it bounces around,
Yes,
otherwise known as?
reflection.
Gotcha. All right, so a reflective muffler is otherwise known as a muffler that bounces noise around to make it quieter.
Yes,
Poorly.
enough for a factory OE car.
Done. All right, cool. So what have you done differently in there that we're seeing here to make that sound better than this?
So we've custom made a muffler for this job.
Hang on, let me get rid of this. All right, now let's talk about this. So these mufflers, I can see this weld joint here.
That's a baffle.
What happens either side of the baffle?
So dual stage muffler. So we've got a reflection muffler in the front, much like the original muffler that was there.
Yeah.
Reflecting sound waves, cancelling out what we can, and then we move into a absorption muffler, and we absorb what is left out of those bad sound waves we want to get rid of.
This weld joint being here,
Yeah.
why is it not here or here?
It's calculated distance based from what we could use inside these mufflers. So these are the same size mufflers that you originally made on your first prototype system. In that, we were limited to ground clearance, roof height, what we could use in that car.
Yeah.
This was the largest muffler in a twin that we could use.
Yeah. When you say that's a calculated distance, basically what you've done with all of your fancy machinery is fill a couple of beer bottles up with water.
That's it.
Blow on each one, figure out which one sounds the best.
The old Homer Simpson.
Pick the whoo and
Yeah.
went with that distance.
Correct.
Gotcha. So noise, tone, sound waves like that.
Yeah.
You've made it, instead of doing this, which is horrible and raspy, a lot more like this.
Yeah,
and that happens in here.
That's right. We took the car for a drive, we got it hot, and we measured the sound waves that everybody's hearing that aren't quite what you want to hear out of a sports ute.
So the Mang
Correct.
3.8
the Commodore.
Ecotect
Yeah.
Commodore
Yeah.
noise. And you measured that, figured
Yeah.
out how to get rid of the Ecotech, and left us with something that's a little bit more BMW X4.
Yeah, correct. So we measured the hertz of where it was peaking of that tone that you were hearing that you didn't like.
Yeah.
And we managed to direct that into that muffler and cancel it out.
So you got rid of the bad sound here, And then you definitely deleted it or directed that sound into this part, which is the absorption part. So this part makes it quieter?
Yeah, from
so
what
this
was
part
left.
changes the tone and this part makes it quieter.
Correct.
Sorry
From what
to
was
interrupt.
left, from what was left, we just had to adjust the volume.
Gotcha.
So using we had to make a few different mufflers, and we adjusted the volume down to a point where you can have cold start,
yes.
not annoy the neighbours too much,
Yeah.
but it is still quite loud
Yeah.
in Baja mode.
And to further prove Jamie's point, he is 100% correct. And I've been driving the Raptor around for, what have we had it back now? 6-8 weeks, something like that. And I've been trying to make a point of daily in it. I'll leave the house in quiet mode. And when I want to be sensible, I'll drive around in quiet or normal. If I'm in the middle of West End or James Street, or if I've left work on a Friday afternoon, you can guarantee that thing is in Baja mode. The difference that it is in quiet or normal to Baja it's night and day different.
Yeah, every step of the way is noticeable. I would say more so than the factory exhaust.
And so that's just all down to the technology inside this muffler.
Correct.
And so then circling back to the fact that I can still adjust my modes with this exhaust system, let's talk about valves.
Yeah.
They were easy, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I thought they were the quickest part of the exhaust.
3 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus or minus 30 times 3
Yeah.
plus 5.
So everything's Southeast Queensland manufactured in that valve.
Am I correct in saying that you've told me before that the entire exhaust system is manufactured? Bits and pieces here, there, everywhere, it's Australian made.
Yeah, the only things you can't get, the tube's New Zealand,
Yes.
and the cats and the flexes are coming from overseas anyway.
Yeah.
You can't get away from that.
Yeah, so it's as Australian made as it can be.
That's right.
So the valves, I know that they're a massive headache for you. How much are you willing to share about them? They work, that's it?
Yeah, what we can say is a lot of work's gone into replicating in 3D scanning and modelling to make sure that that's as close as we can get to the factory valve.
And now I did Jamie a favour by making sure that I managed to burn out one of the factory valves on our Type 1 prototype. So again, circling back to episode 2 of the mid-pipe development, we've got a twin exhaust, we put a twin in, twin out muffler, and we welded the factory valves to the back of it. Me being me, just like the diff, I broke the valves. Jamie figured out how to fix them, and what you see is what we've got here, which is a valve that's made in Southeast Queensland. It's 100% stainless steel. We've replicated the factory springs.
Yeah.
The stepper motors bolt down like the factory ones would.
Yeah.
The heat shields work.
Yeah.
It's as far as being
Yeah, it's a 316.
Nathan proof as possible, right?
Exactly. 316 marine grade stainless steel. So
Yeah.
on the beach, you're not going to have any dramas with it binding up. Everything inside of there is as 316 as we can be.
And that's part of the reason why they're on top as well, right?
Correct.
Keep them out of the sand, the salt, the spray.
That's right. You're not going to drag them on anything. They're as high as we can get them without being too far away. We're limited to
touching the floor
to
or
length of the
rubbing or-
cabling, but where they are works well.
And the factory stepper motors, out of one, straight into the other.
That's right. Clip down as per factory.
Yeah.
Bolt down with a 10mm screw.
Yeah.
Good to go.
So all the modes on the serum will work. The valves work. The valves are a work of art. Do we really need to talk about this part?
I think
we probably should.
You do, yeah. Importantly is the bypass tube, which you won't find on other exhausts in the market.
I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say that this is, so on the factory exhaust, where you've got the X-pipe at the back that we've now moved to the front to
Yes.
make the sound better
Yeah.
and velocity and horsepower, it's got a tube just bunged into the side of it.
That's right.
This is that tube.
It's a pressed X pipe
Yeah.
with a single pipe running into its bypass. So
Yeah.
that was a 2-inch pipe.
Yeah.
We've gone for smaller pipes here, but because there's 2 of them, they are larger than you need.
Yeah.
If the valve is shut, it will bypass through that.
Yeah.
If there is ever any dramas with the valve, you can still bypass that valve without burning the actuator down.
So to give the guys, I guess, a bit of a better explanation at home, one comes in, magic happens,
2 go out.
2 go out. This one is the always
Always
pipe.
open.
So when the valve is in quiet, it's fully shut. We know that from episode 1 of the mid-pipe series. This will let any engine gas coming through past that, so that way you're not building up unnecessary back pressure in the system.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they are throttle controlled as well.
TPS sensitive, yeah.
Yeah, if you're in quiet mode and you put your foot down, those valves will open as per factory.
Cool. And then obviously from there, we come back into here and this is where the stock tailpipes connect to.
That's right.
And I can see here, we've got this, you know, the stock hanger location. Up the front here, stock hanger location.
Yep. And same as the one in the middle with the
around the other side that you can't see.
Yeah.
Now, prior to recording this episode, I've fitted 3 mid pipes and it's about an hour changeover. So, I mean, that's testament to the work that, you know, you guys have put in up to this point to make sure that the system is as closely replicated to the factory as possible, but as far removed from the factory as possible to make it sound like the Raptor probably should have sounded when it left the showroom floor. Tell me why we didn't bother making that over diff section. Like there's obviously, as we saw before, a big gap between here and the tips.
Yeah.
What?
Being a modular system,
yes,
we retain the 2.5 section in the center.
Yeah.
Twin 2.5 is enough to flow a 3-litre V6 motor.
Gotcha.
So by the time you get to the back, there was no point in changing that part. That part then bolts up to the tips.
Yeah.
It's shorter, it fits within the box sizes that we're going to send.
So it's a factory part. It's more than adequate for the power that you're going to make. It doesn't make a difference to the sound. And thinking about shipping internationally, it was just adding an extra headache into the box that we didn't already need. And more importantly, you've already got one. So why waste money on getting a new one that you don't really need when you could spend that money on buying beer and half emptying the bottles so you can sit at home making whoo-hoo noises with them to try and figure out how Jamie made this muffler sound so good. So, I mean, apart from this really good looking exhaust aside, let's talk about the tips.
Yeah.
Resonator delete,
Yeah.
bigger diameter,
Yeah.
the trumpet that you said about before. So I actually made your life harder here by making these.
Correct. Because it is modular, we did try all configurations.
Yeah.
This did make life hard,
Yes.
but we refined it in the muffler. If you wanted to choose the tips, you've already got the tips. You didn't want the tips, everything's still going to work either way. It's not going to give you that Commodore noise.
So when you say this made life hard, what I think Jamie is referring to is this part of the tip here. So it goes from 2.5 inch up to 4. We delete the resonator, and this is great for giving you more noise straight off the bat. So if you want a bang for buck Raptor modification, alternatively, if you don't have these and you still have stock tips, that's completely fine as well. Because like Jamie said, you know, we've made the exhaust fully modular, fully interchangeable. So I mean, I guess that pretty much covers the whole exhaust. Tomorrow, we're going to be taking it to the dyno. Do you have any predictions on what power you think it might make?
Well, driving around while testing, in the seat of the car, we could feel a gain in horsepower. So I'm going to say probably around that 30 horsepower mark.
I agree. I've noticed while I've had the car back that it's far more punchier. It's got more legs up the top end, and that's with the stock ECU in it as well. So an important thing to note is that when we started testing, especially testing with the cats, you know, you guys would know that we've got the tuned ECU in the car. We've been up to Jordan. We've made a little bit more power with the F150 ECU, whatever, doesn't matter. We've had to put the stock ECU back in it, so that way that we knew that the product that we were developing was going to be able to go straight into your guys' cars, regardless of whether you had a stock ECU, a Herod tune, a BPT tune, you know, if you're in America, Argentina, whatever, it didn't matter. So the stock ECU was a vital part of this whole project.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you that driving the car around with the stock ECU, it is far more impressive than what I remember driving it around. I'm gonna go 18.7 horsepower.
0.7?
18.7.
Not 19?
No, 18.7, I'm running with it. 18.7 and a couple of hoo-hoo. Yeah. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. Let's jump in the Raptor and head to the dyno and see who's buying who dinner. And that is why we're here.
8speed.au down in Brendale. One of our friends, Buckner, has done us a real solid today.
Basically what the plan is today, do a couple of baseline power runs. Because there are a few modifications on this car. We've got the Phoenix intercooler kit. We've got the in the works Aniva shutter delete kit. What else do we have? Turbo Smart blow off valve, the stock inlet location airbox. All of these things can be found on our website, by the way, fabulousfab.com.au.
Nice, this is real good.
Yeah, see, I'm learning. But yeah, so basically because our car is not dead standard, we're going to chuck it on the dyno, do a couple of power runs. I think we're going to do 3, so that way we've got a good average to work with. That way we can get a baseline dyno result, power figure at the hubs, which is important. We're on a hub dyno today, not a chassis dyno. We've got the stock ECU back in the car. The car is fully standard at the moment.
That's right, and that's what we wanted to sort of prove, right? Was that this is exactly, like, tuning-wise, we're not actually expecting to see any gains really here, especially between...
I don't know what's going to happen
Yeah,
today,
we don't, so that's why we're doing it. So much to your disgust, we're pulling the exhaust off twice here today. But yeah, like first scenario, stock ECU with a couple of our little parts on there. Second scenario was...
I think we'll throw the mid-pipe on it.
Mid-pipe and
tips.
Yep, mid-pipe tips.
The tips being that far back, there is absolutely no point doing any dyno runs with those. The mid-pipe, we actually just got a very good lesson from Dr. Buckner before.
Yeah, Dr. Buckner.
Taught us about exhaust gases and how they work and what we should expect to see. We don't expect to see a gain from the mid-pipe either, but we're going to chuck it in and see what happens, hey?
Yeah, and the idea behind the mid-pipe was the sound changing.
That's the most
But we still want to see what's going on with that. And
Yep.
then the final one will be from turbo to tips, I think you call it.
Yeah, correct. So that'll be the full exhaust system. It'll be, which is 3-inch dump pipe, high flow cat, 3-inch engine pipe, mid-pipe, tips.
Party.
Fingers crossed, a little bit more power.
Again, not sure what we're going to
Not
see
sure.
there with
We've
the
got
stock
no
ECU.
idea.
But the idea is that setup would really see its benefits when you put an aftermarket tuner in.
Correct, yeah. So I guess after we finish filming this episode, it'll be finally time for me to put my tuned ECU back in the car. So that way, when the boys at Boat Desert were working with the Euro 6 Cat, so they could drive it around, do a heap of miles in it, simulate towing conditions, driving up hills, start, stop, all of it.
We knew it wasn't going to throw a code because of something we'd done. So
Correct.
they had a stock set platform to work from.
Yeah. I guess once we're done today, once we're done with the episode, we'll chuck the tuned ECU back in it. Then we'll put it back on Jordan's dyno, and then we'll see if we can bring a bit more power out of its neck, eh?
Yeah, and so the reason, because you've seen us sort of jump between a couple of dyno shops, and the reason we're here today is that we're going to be here all day. We can't, a lot of our other friends, we can't tie up a dyno all day, go grab their hoist. Buckner's been very generous and lent us the space today. So.
Yeah, no, it's very appreciated. So thanks to 8speed.au, and let's get some dyno runs happening.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's keep the rods in it. But I shouldn't have said that. Yeah. I'm a fucking idiot.
All right, bit of a weird turn of events there.
So we thought that Buckner was going to be running the car up, but as it turns out,
He just taught you to do it.
yeah.
Loosely.
Were you listening?
No, not at all. I'm so far away.
Man, I was kind of listening.
Okay.
Okay.
A lot of space bar.
A lot of space.
Alt
bar.
V.
Yeah. Fans on. That's important. We're just going to
Ramp up in 6th gear.
6 gear.
Cool.
See what happens.
Yeah, see what happens.
All right. Open throttle, then press space. So I think I just bury it and then press the space button. So bury, space. 248.4. So I'll do it again. I'm at about 1600 RPM. All right, baseline test number 1, save. And give it the berries and then hit space. Oh, this is easy.
Yeah. You charge a lot of money for that, eh?
This is sick.
247.7.
Save. All right, same RPM. Press open throttle, press space. Open throttle, press space. All right, that's it. Good baseline test done.
Nice.
So as expected,
That was 243.2. Might have been heat soak.
I would imagine 3 runs one after the other, we would be seeing some heat soak. It's pretty normal.
It's on the average there.
It's
You should see the same heat soak graduation in the next 2 minutes.
You'd imagine so. Alright, now that exhaust is nice and hot, let's bolt the mid-pipe on.
Alright, so we've just pulled out the factory mid-pipe and tips. It's really nice and hot under there, even pulls on the tools. Now, we've added a lot to the system here to change the way that it sounds. What we're hoping to confirm is that by further absorbing and changing the sound, we're not actually having a negative effect to the performance. We want to maintain at the very least stock power figures. Anything gained by perhaps the X-pipe location is going to be a great bonus.
All right, so we're back in the car. Let's do mid-pipe and tips, run 1. Turn the dyno fan on. Alt V. All right. So 250 kilowatt, 335 horsepower. So we are up a little bit, but it is the first dyno run, so it could just be that the ambient air temp, the oil temp and stuff is still quite low. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna save that run. I am actually really glad that Buckner taught me how to do this because I'm wasting a lot of his time. All right, and again. So that run was near on identical, I think. Let's have a look. 332 horsepower, so you know what we kind of expected to see. We're down a little bit from the first run, which is normal, heat soak, all the rest of the gear. Save that one. All right, last run. All right, so that one was down a bit, but I think I stuffed up the start. Depending on the RPM, where you start the run, that'll depend on how it ramps up the car. If I was slightly lower in the RPM then the ramp rate will be different, which you'll be able to see there in the difference between the purple line and the green line. And you can also see that difference about 4,500 through the rev range. So expected that. What do we got? 330 horsepower. So 5 horsepower drop across the 3 runs, heat soak, ambient air temp, engine air temp, all of the gear. So we're going to get this run saved, we're going to get the car turned off, trying to get it as cool as possible, as quick as possible. We're going to get the full exhaust on it. We're going to try again. Alrighty. Off.
We're going to take the factory dump pipe and the front pipe section off. Replace them with the Fabulous Fab units and then run it up again for another 3 dyno runs.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Tune In with Fabby. Oh, she's sounding spicy now. Alt V. The valves are working, we're in Baja mode. GoPro's on, that GoPro's on. First, manual, all right. I think I might have run that up like I'm not sure. I'm gonna try again.
20 horsepower. 20 horsepower.
Yes. The boys are get on! Oh. So that run, the run up is how it's supposed to be. Peak power is the same.
Yeah, unreal. What'd you say there, sorry?
So, see, I f***ed up the first ramp.
Yeah.
But that is the same horsepower.
Spot on 350 what you said. That was your guess, right?
I think so.
350 you said.
All right, and again. That's been an absolute whirlwind of emotions. We've gone from, I think, 333 with the stock down pipes. The first run was 353, second run was 350. The third run was 361. I'm really not sure what happened there. I might have ramped the car up wrong. Brother, I am amped. All right, that's been a lot of fun. All right guys, we've finished up at the dyno and it's the part of the episode that you've all been waiting for, the noise comparison test. So we've got a dead stock Raptor, a Raptor with our mid-pipe and tips, and of course our workshop Raptor with the full exhaust system on it. And what better place to do that testing than at the RACQ Driver Training Centre at Mount Cotton. So let's go get stuck into it. Oh, is this the Uber for Nathan? Guys, when we started this journey, our goal was to completely change the way the Raptor sounded. Ultimately, we are limited here due to the head-mounted turbos, but we replaced and tuned every part of the system to alter the sound as far as possible while still delivering the best performance. The full system is considerably louder than the mid-pipe only, so if you're serious about sound, please chuck in a set of headphones now to get the best idea of how good these actually sound. An even more detailed comparison will be uploaded to our B channel shortly, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. That's it, boys. Pack her up and go. Boys and girls. Oh man. Well, if you've made it this far in the episode, thank you. It is so good to finally be at the end of the exhaust development stage. And you know, when we say it's been 12 months of our life, it has 12 months and a little bit to the day. It's such a euphoric feeling to be here today, to test it, to drive the car like it should be driven. It sounds amazing. As a team, we have brought you what we stand by is the best Raptor exhaust on the market worldwide. It does everything it should. We've over-engineered the cat, the anti-resonance chambers, the absorption chambers. And Jamie's technical knowledge for building a good sounding exhaust is world class. And that matched with our marketing, Zach, yep. Give him a pat on the back, Paulie, the videographer, and the guys in the workshop that are going to be banging these together for you. We are bringing you the best Raptor exhaust on the planet. And we thank you. Like, ultimately, you guys are the reason that we've done it. You know, there was such a huge call for this product, and without your input, we probably wouldn't have done it. Or more importantly, we would have given up a long time ago. I know that there was a lot of points in time where You know, Jamie probably spent a lot of sleepless nights, and it's been a really long process, but thank you. Everyone I've just mentioned, all the boys in the workshop, Dom, you know, Beaudesert Exhaust, every single one of our customers, past, present and future, everyone that gave us a razz and be like, where's this mid-pipe? What about the mid-pipe episode? If you're in the market for a new exhaust for your Raptor, head over to the website, www.fabulousfab.com.au. By the time you see this episode, it should be on there. It's good to be completed. On to the next project. More importantly, like this video if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't. Oh, don't drive into Paul. I've got to pay attention before I ride off 2 cars. See you next time.